Hey, welcome to Everyday Jesus. My name is Doug Rouse, and I get to be the host of this little show where in a couple of minutes I give you a tip from God's Word to put some gas in your tank and fuel you up for the journey ahead. In this week's episode, I want to make reference to a pretty obscure passage from the Bible that you might not have ever heard before. It's found in the Old Testament book of Judges, chapter 12, and it's the story of a man by the name of EJe. EJe ruled Israel during this time period called the Judges. It's a dark period, really, in Israel's history, kind of like the Wild, Wild West. The Bible tells us that during this time period, every man did that which was right in his own eyes. So in other words, you've got a bunch of vigilantes, you have people doing their own thing. Israel was not united as a nation, and it was just a really rough and tumble time period. And God raised up various people to bring leadership to the nation during this time period, and one of those is this man, EJe. And the Bible does not tell us much about EJe, but it does tell us this. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters, and he gave them all away in marriage to other clans. In other words, what EJe did was he used his 60 children to create political alliances with other clans within Israel in an attempt to bring unity to his nation. He used his children as political pawns to create unity. Now, history tells us that his plan, his strategy, did not work at all, because it would not be for another several hundred years until the rise of King David and then King Solomon that the nation of Israel would experience its zenith in unity and greatness as a people. So EJe sacrificed his children for these political alliances, and his strategy didn't work. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians that the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. In other words, the very best and brightest among us on our smartest days still cannot compare to the surpassing greatness of God's wisdom and God's knowledge about how life works. Friends, we need to be wary, frankly, of a lot of the things that our culture tells us. Just because our culture says it's smart doesn't mean it's wise. Just because our culture says that it's love doesn't mean it's love. Not everything our culture says is true is true. God is the perfect source for truth and wisdom and insight about your life. Following your feelings is not going to work. Following His wisdom will. The Bible tells us that we find wisdom, we begin to find wisdom in the fear of the Lord. In other words, the first step to you and me gaining wisdom is to acknowledge God's greatness, is to acknowledge that God is actually really smart and He knows what He's doing. And we look to Him for His direction and His insight about our family. We look to Him for His insight about our finances. We look to Him for His insight about our marriage or about our job or about our some conflict that we're having with somebody. We look to Him for insight about decisions that we need to make regarding our career or you name it. God has got the wisdom to be able to lead you and guide you in making these really important decisions. The beautiful thing about God is this: He loves you, and He genuinely wants the very best thing for you. And you can trust Him. Now, His wisdom doesn't always look like what the world might tell you, but His is the one that works. So wisdom is not just knowing the right thing to do. Wisdom is actually doing it, which means We not only need wisdom, but we need courage. I like to say it this way. Wisdom is knowing the right thing to do. Courage is having the strength to be able to do it. Wisdom without courage is useless, because what good is it to know the right thing to do if I'm too chicken to actually get it done? And courage without wisdom, well, that's just plain dangerous, because we could make all kinds of foolish moves in the name of courage and strength, and that's not good either. We need wisdom and courage. And so our prayer is, God, give us wisdom, and God, give us courage to do it. The book of James, chapter 1, assures us that if we lack wisdom, we can simply ask God for it. And so that's the challenge that I have for you today. If you're needing wisdom about something, I encourage you, simply ask God for it. Seek God for insight about that job situation, or about your family, or about your dating situation, or whatever it is. Seek God for wisdom about it. He's more than happy to partner with you in it. He's more than happy to reveal his heart to you in it. You can trust him. Remember, God's got this. He knows what he's doing. And he's a great leader. If we would but follow him and keep our eyes on him, he'll never lead you astray.